everything now, so I just have to use my fingerprint.
Representative.
It's all of them for me.
Right.
So it makes it so much nicer.
Representative Kate.
They're all, my wife hates me. She's like, what's the password for this?
And Hollywood, yeah.
Because I don't have any idea.
Mine
My
is
finger.
Are we ready?
In the end.
Are we ready?
Hello.
I'm sorry to interrupt your conversation. Well, I guess we are ready.
To be continued.
Well, let me recognize you since you're up walking around. Representative Cates, Judge Frechette. I'd like to call this meeting to order, the regular meeting of the Village of Carouse governing body. Please put your phones on vibrate or turn them off, and then join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilor Miera.
Here.
Councilor Woolman.
Here.
Councilor Knight.
Here.
Councilor Alsterbrook.
Here.
Councilor Burkett.
Here.
Councilor Murray.
Here.
So we need a motion to approve the agenda. We are going to make a modification to the agenda later, but we don't have any changes specifically at this point. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So the agenda is approved. Mr. Curry, Administrator's report.
Thank you. Let's kick it off with Tanya, please.
Hello, thank you, Mayor, councilors, and
I hope she's here.
We can't hear you, Tanya.
Can't hear me. Let's try, hold on.
Are you in the water?
Can you hear me now?
Very nice.
Can you hear me now? Hello? No?
Right.
Nope. Can anyone, Melanie, can you hear me?
Melanie, we can hear her on this end.
Still can't hear you. Your mic is muted.
What were you saying about technology?
Can you hear me, Melanie?
It's great when it works.
I don't even really like it then.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll do it this way.
Okay. Can everybody hear her through the microphone?
Not really.
No.
Okay, so, sorry, I guess we'll not do it tonight then, if you guys can't hear me.
You're getting there, but.
The little symbol, there you go.
Can you hear me online? Okay, can you hear me?
Can everyone hear her okay?
Well, the little symbol over here has a cross through it, you know, the speaker symbol.
Muted, yeah.
So, I'm gonna try to give a report. The online people can hear me, but they were all talking and you can't hear anyone online tonight. COVID update's kind of hard to give because
Melanie?
the numbers are not being put out. They won't be put out again for another 2 weeks for the state. However, wastewater data has been put out, and Sandoval County, Bernalillo County, those areas are going down. Santa Fe is going down. Los Alamos' wastewater is going up, and so is Otero County's. The state has only done 800 vaccines in the last 7 days, and only 21% have their bivalent shot vaccinations. And we do know that not getting that vaccination does put you at greater risk because it's been months, if not a year or more, since you've had a booster. We're still vaccinating twice a week and still getting people coming in. ACIP, the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices, will be meeting June 21st through 23rd. The COVID vaccine is on it to talk about what they want in the fall booster. There are also the RSV vaccination that's been in the news for adults over 60. They're going to meet on that and decide if they're going to vote to approve it to go to CDC for sign off. FDA has already signed off on it. Monkeypox is making a rise in several states, but not in New Mexico. And it is affecting people who are previously vaccinated and those who did not complete the vaccination series. New Mexico is still not reporting any deaths. No deaths have been reported since April 17th. And that is not because there haven't been any. They're just having an issue with reporting. The only other thing I do know is we only have 27 people in the hospital with COVID right now and only 3 in the ICU. So that's really good news. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if I can hear them.
Any questions?
Thank you, Tanya.
I think we're good, Tanya.
The next thing we'd like to do is have Chief Martinez come up and talk a little bit about some of the work that he's been doing on the river to clear some obstacles. And I think Melanie also has some photographs of the work that the department is doing.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, Administrator Curry, councilors. So what we have is a couple of photos here today. As you know, we've had increased flows on the river, been keeping our department and other departments around us that have been giving us a hand with our hazards, really busy since the high flows. We've lost approximately 100 feet of riverbank along the edge on the Corrales side. With that 100 feet of riverbank, everything's washed away into the river and downstream with the higher flows, which have created a very dangerous situation in the Corrales stretch of the river from the siphon down to about a mile south of siphon. We've been staffing every Saturday, Sunday from about 10 until 6 with Swiftwater rescue technicians. We've had participation from other agencies. Sandoval County Fire Department has been posted at the 550. And our whole focus is just, public safety, PR, trying to advise the recreational users of the Rio Grande of the hazards that they might be facing. And we truly believe that our efforts have saved lives. We have prevented a lot of people with insufficient equipment or lack of equipment from getting on the river. I'm sure that we've increased the sales at Walmart and Big Five in the local area, so they go and buy vests and then come back and say, does this work? And we say yes. So we're not telling people that you can't go and enjoy the river. We're just trying to make it safer for everybody. We're going to continue our efforts. The boat ramp was recently closed last week by Middle Rio Grande Conservancy because of hazards, and these photos will reflect. This picture here is where we've already removed one tree, but that's another tree that we're still working on. It was a multi-agency cooperation today. Everyone has come to realize that it's so dangerous that we had to make at least an effort to try to remove this hazard. You could see that we had to put technicians in the middle of the river on the tree to do the rigging. We had to stretch heavy chain from the riverbank and connect it. We had to use an MRGCD bulldozer. Albuquerque Fire Department brought out their airboat with the Albuquerque Open Space. We had law enforcement on site to help control the trails and make the public safe while we were doing this operation. So I just want to give a real brief report. We are up to, I believe, 44 rescues on the river, and those are in our area. This particular hazard of this tree, since last Thursday, we had 4 people that were caught up in the tree. They were safely able to get out of the tree with the assistance of MRGCD workers that were on site. Friday, we had 2 individuals that decided to float that we got called out to that they had a near-death experience hitting the tree. Saturday, we had a family of 6 that hit the tree. And Sunday, we had another 3. So we hope we eliminated that problem. And also, I just got notice about an hour ago, we're going to open up the boat ramp starting Saturday, now that we eliminated the hazard, but we'll still be on site educating everybody that there's still a risk. So, any questions?
Yes, have the flows changed any? Have they decreased any?
The flows are coming down. We're monitoring that. They may go back up depending on the capacity of coaches, is what I'm understanding. But right now they are going down.
So you said 100 feet of bank was washed away. That's 100 feet along the west side of the bank. How far in on the Bosque has it eroded?
100 feet,
Oh, 100 feet.
100 feet,
100 feet to the west.
100 feet to the west from the river. So our landscape at the north end has changed quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
And we're approximately, according to Google Earth, about 130 feet away from the levee. So this is in the radar of the Bureau of Reclamation. They're monitoring it. They've sent surveyor teams out. Conservancy is monitoring it as well. If it keeps encroaching, then I'm sure they'll give us an update of what they plan on doing.
Did you get a drone shot by any chance?
I believe I have some drone footage of the river that
Did you-
includes part of the
Yeah,
Bosque.
SCAFCA has a drone. I think MRGCD has a drone.
No, we have a drone. We'd be happy to maybe get you something maybe for your next.
Well, I mean, just for documentation.
Yeah.
Because nobody ever believes how much these things, the arroyos can move 100 feet with a heavy flow, and here we have the river doing it.
We've never, in my time down here in Corrales, I've never witnessed that much erosion in one event.
Yeah.
So it's quite a bit.
Any other questions? Yeah, Bill.
So will it be rebuilt as the plan in the fall or whenever this subsides to rebuild that 100 feet?
I don't know. That would be a.
MRGCD?
Yeah,
Yeah.
MRGCD along with the Bureau of Reclamation will probably have to re-engineer that. I know that before COVID, like in 2019, I attended a meeting. The Bureau of Reclamation has a project called the 199 project, meaning River Mile 199, which included this area of erosion that it's been on their radar that there could have been a threat. So I'm sure that they're gonna have to go back to the drawing board and re-engineer that. So, but I don't know what their plans are.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Melanie, are we ready to show, speaking of drones, a drone shot of the progress on the new gymnasium?
It's really impressive when you get the perspective of the old gym. It's
The date.
That's right. They left you hanging. It's a cliffhanger.
Thank you, Melanie.
Just-
Oh, yes.
Just
Excuse me,
quick,
Bill.
quick question. In a previous meeting, you mentioned about the rebar, the base core, and then the final the cement lay. Is that the final cement lay?
Yeah, they're gonna
now?
start putting the building up soon.
Great.
So like, once they start putting the metal up, it'll go fast.
Yeah. That's great.
Anyone else? Okay.
I don't know if many of you noticed when you came into the meeting tonight, but the facility builder started working on animal services over here. You can see some of the fencing is down. And so we're looking at an August timeframe at this point for arrival of the building and completion.
Ron, a quick question. I noticed that the storage building is still there, but the plan is to move that. And that a lot of what was in the storage building is now in the cell where the animals are supposed to stay. So is there any plan? What's the plan?
The building is going to be moved this week. And we're in a transition period. One of the things, there's going to be some patience required as we get through this. But one of the concerns in the existing building is that the air conditioning has been inadequate. So we're having a gentleman that's coming out to work on the front half of the administration building where Bridget sits and where the conference room is. The air conditioning there has failed. So he's going to fix that. At the same time, there's going to be a splitter installed over in animal services to cool that place down and make it more reasonable. So, but as far as that building is going to be moved over to Public Works area, and the disposition of the documents, there's nothing in there right now, as you well know, and so some of those documents may end up being moved over there as well.
So between now and the time that the ribbon cutting, the cats and dogs will be in the office?
We're working on that.
Okay.
You know, it's one of those, like moving your house.
Transition, right.
Yeah, it's a transition period.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Okay. Also, I just wanted to let you know that probably by the end of this week, the JPA on the interior drain will be sent up to the Department of Finance Administration for their approval. We've never done this before, so we don't know exactly the time frame on it, but we're getting the necessary legal language put together for the letter that will be going up seeking their approval. I personally don't anticipate much of a delay on this. If there is, then we have the opportunity to call some people up there that perhaps will assist us on it. So, but once we get the JPA signed off on by the Department of Finance and Administration, then we have the $150,000 that Senator McKenna gave us from the last legislative, not this last one, but the year before the legislative session. At that point, we'll send out start developing an RFP to send out for a planning architect for the design of the interior drain. But we're way over the hump at this point, so that's good news. And if you were to talk to Doug Finley, he would, Doug's been working on this 2 years at least. Well, for a lifetime, if you talk to him, and so, but we've made progress with the help of with Randy's folks that have been working on it, along with working with Jason Kasuga over at MRGC. But it was a learning experience, as I mentioned to you before, because the interior drain is actually the property, as you well know at this point, of the Department of Interior. And so we're getting into position. The ultimate thing we want to do is get a license that has been approved and we'd be approved by the DFA, so that once we start doing things over there, we don't have to get the approval of the MRGC every time we get ready to do it. So that's the goal of the JPA. Our comprehensive plan committee which will be giving us a update, I believe, at the next meeting, the 27th. They'll give you a thorough, but I just wanted to throw out a little factoid to you here, and this comes from the Mid-Region Metropolitan Planning Organization. And talking about population in Corrales, because we often wonder what our capacities are, our estimations are. And I'll just read you this one paragraph from them that I find interesting. The mid-region MPO was requested by the village of Corrales to provide a 2040 population projection for the municipality. The population projection is informed by data from the U.S. Census Bureau and the University of New Mexico Geospatial and Population Studies. The population for the village of Corrales for 2040 is 8,718 people. The projection was determined using two demographic techniques, a housing unit method and a shift sharing method. The population of Corrales was 8,493 in 2020, up slightly from the 2010. Population growth in Corrales dramatically slowed in the 2010s with a 0.2% average normal annual growth rate for the decade compared to a 1.4% in the 2000s. So that's one of the factoids that is coming about and that will be included in the comprehensive plan. But those are, we get asked frequently about the capacity of the village. And these are based upon the data that they're working on now. It doesn't have any consideration of anything that this body might do relative to the comprehensive plan, or whether it doesn't include anything that might be relative to the Northwest sector. But it's an interesting baseline to see, comparing now to early 2000s, the growth has decreased for reasons that hopefully we'll see in the comprehensive plan as it comes forward. And the last thing I'd say is that I haven't talked to Alan Gonzalez in the last week last 2 weeks since I gave you the last update, except that I haven't heard anything that would negate the optimism that I reported the last time.
Okay. Does Michael have anything to say? Yes.
Michael, is there anything that you wanted to report on?
The only thing I really have to report on is the paving we have going. We're paving Cadillo Road. We're gonna.
We can't hear you, Michael.
Mike, they
I think
can't
it's on
hear
our
you.
end.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All
okay,
right.
thank
So-
you.
Thank you, Michael. So we'll move on to Councilor's Forum. And this, excuse me.
Quick question. I know in the comment I read briefly that you may have reached out to Wells Fargo about the facility across the street. I would urge that we keep on top of that, because I think that would be a good fit for the village if we can acquire that property.
We have reached out to some of the folks that represent the bank in the legislature, and I have not gotten any responses yet. But our feeling is, like yours, Counselor, is that there's a lot of things on the table there, whether they decide to another bank moves in or not, but we want to be at least at the head of the line to have some sort of option to look at it.
So we're going to, does anyone else have a question, comment? Councilor's Forum. Section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion and debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during business session. Yes, sir, Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. I submitted some language to Corey and our other council audio about the speed limit, and I'm hoping we'll see it on the next meeting. Anyway, to maybe lower that speed limit on West Law and Trotter from Corrales Road to Omalarga. So anyway, I'm hoping I will see that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay. Councilor Alsobrook.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up, as you know, we had the Corrales Tractor Club sponsored a tractor show on June 3rd, along with a lot of car aficionados, and we had some military equipment and other things. It's a very nice turnout. We raised, we don't have the final number, and it was probably about $3,000 for the Children's Hospital in Mexico.
That's pretty good since it was free.
Yep. Sponsors.
Yes, there were a lot of, I noticed that there were quite a few out there, and quite a few old tractors. Yes,
Those are the ones we like best, older than us.
yes.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, well, let's move on to Corleone's Forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion and debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. There is a 3-minute time limit. According to Village Code, Section 2-60, G3, regarding public decorum during a meeting, no person shall act in a disorderly manner, nor while addressing governing body shall any person make any personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks. Presiding officer may bar anyone acting improperly from continuing his address of the governing body. So Melanie, is a sign-up sheet. Who do you have?
Mr. Rick Toller, sorry. And if you
Mr.
could state your
Toller.
name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Rick Toller, and I am a 48-year resident of the Village of Corrales. I just had to order another 10 of my slow down signs, and I've already promised 5 of those. So my single issue is not mine alone or my family's. There are a lot of people in this village that are interested in speeding. And Stuart, I'm very grateful that you are advancing the motion to put the speed limit down to 15 miles an hour. That's one of the things I was going to ask for. There's speed cameras out on West La Entrada now. Great idea. But I'm afraid that as soon as they're moved, their effect will end, whatever that effect is. Anecdotally, they're not working. The speeding, again, anecdotally, because we sort of keep track of it, but we don't have any real data. Speeding's been worse on La Entrada this last week. The data from the signs will be very interesting, and I hope we can see it next weekend. So we should go forward with lowering the speed limit to 15 miles an hour. We should go forward with striping the road. And if a 15-mile-an-hour road can be narrower than 22 feet, stripe it narrower to allow for some pedestrian space on either side. I guess 22 feet is the minimum for a 25-mile-an-hour road. Might be that you could make it narrower for a 15-mile-per-hour road. Add speed limit signs. There aren't very many on any of the Corrales side roads, and there aren't very many on West La Entrada, and it would probably be a big help if people could actually see the speed limit signs, and they should say 15. And by the way, all these ideas I think should be applied not just to West La Entrada, but to all the problem streets, Camino Hermosa, Meadowlark, all the other ones. But most importantly, none of this is going to do any good without a real focus on enforcement. And I have asked both the mayor and all the councilors to declare 2023 the year of traffic safety in Corrales and start a rotating safety blitz to really crack down on speeding, so that it needs to be made clear again that Corrales used to be the place where you were afraid to speed. And it's time to stop privileging cars driving through neighborhoods over the people who live in the neighborhoods. And that is all I got to say.
Thank you.
That's it?
Okay. Oh, you don't have anybody else? Oh, okay.
No, we do have 2 people that want to speak when we get to the election issue, but
Oh, okay, all right. Specific issues. Okay. All right, move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, this is Councilman Murray. If I may, I would like to see Resolution 2334 pulled. I've got some questions about it.
Besides the fact that we can't do a voice, we have, yeah. You want to pull the bar?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anybody else want to pull a bar or pull, not a bar, but pull something? Okay, the remainder of the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, Council Murray, what is it about Resolution 23-34 that you're concerned about?
Let me get it pulled up here. Mainly, I noticed there's a lot of increases, especially the property tax numbers. I was just curious, is that money that was already budgeted, but it was late coming in, and that's the reason we're seeing the change?
Yes, that's some of it.
Okay.
And some of it is that we've received more money than anticipated.
Okay, and some of the other increases, are they also such that they're delayed monies coming in rather than, or are the actual increases that's going to the departments that need it?
There has been one department, well, one place, the senior center, whose budget for utilities was not enough, and they spent more. The utilities went up at the senior center. So that's not more money. But the others are primarily just pay debt service, for example, and a new bond from last year, and then increase in the interest from certain funds, just more money than we anticipated. So she's moving it around to close out the accounts for the year, because we're finishing up. So everything has to be, has to match up.
So this is the end of the year?
This is the end of the year, balance your book. Yeah, you just got your report from the bank, and you're going through your book and you're balancing your book.
There will be a couple more of these.
It's gonna get worse,
She
probably.
works through them.
Well, it
So
cut
there will
off
be
because
a
I
couple
put it
more
on my
year-end ones,
ears.
because she has
Now
some
I took
things
it
that
off
need
on
to-
my
just-
ears.
Some of these increases
And I
coming
still
from money
can't
that we
hardly
got left
see it,
over.
but I
And
can't
like you
get
say, we got more.
No, it's revenue. A lot of these, I shouldn't say it. Well, yeah, the majority of these are revenue that we didn't anticipate.
Okay.
What was it those guys said about revenue? It's 40% over what they anticipated for the year, for the state?
Yeah.
There's a lot of money coming in that we weren't anticipating,
Okay.
and we thought we had done a pretty good estimate on what our revenue
Oh, Bill
was
is
going to
saying
be.
something.
Okay.
And so she's just trying to make everything balance out. Now, there will be some that will be carried over next year in the cash account.
This is Jim
That will
talking.
not be revenue next fiscal year. That'll just be over here.
Okay. I appreciate the answers, though. Thank you.
Sure. And she will do that for you guys. She'll give you a little notated bar. Okay. Yes, sir.
Mayor, just a quick question. On a couple of these, we budgeted for them in the 2024 fiscal year budget. Bosque Fund, farmland preservation, et cetera. So what will happen to those items in the 2024 budget?
They're budgeted.
These are for 2023.
That's right. This is extra money we got this year, and it will be in the bank. It's not revenue for the fiscal year 23, 24.
Right.
It's that'll start July 1st.
Okay, so that money will be available to these groups as of July 1st,
Correct.
as opposed
The
to waiting for
budgeted
them,
funds, yes.
because the budget has not been approved by the state, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, we're still in that process.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
No, I didn't get a chance to read the resolution. Let me read the resolution.
That's pretty clear.
Resolution 23-34, it's a budget adjustment resolution. Who made the motion? Got a motion? Do I have a second? And a second. Okay. Councilor Mira, how do you vote?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Wallman?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
And Councilor Murray?
You betcha.
Okay. So now we're going to new business. Oh, okay. The first one is consideration action and approval of ordinance 23-03 zone map amendment. There was an error in the zone map. And so what we're going to do is ask to publish and post and get a correction and then bring it back on July 11th.
Right.
I'm getting some help here.
So what we need to do is we actually just need to get council to reapprove a publish and post. We have the existing resolution to publish and post. We just need to go, technically, that's fine. The resolution's okay. We just need to go back, republish and post the ordinance with the corrected map. And just so you guys are aware of timelines, we have to have the amended map from Mr. Cog back by the 23rd. That may or may not be possible. We've reached out to Mr. Cog. They let us know end of the month is when we can hope for it. And so we may be, we will continue until the 11th of next month. So that should be the July regular meeting. And if we need to at that time, we may need to ask for another continuance while we await that map to be corrected. So just so everybody knows what we're doing and why.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Go ahead. Oh, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor. Just wondered, the error, is that in our underlying GIS data entries? Is that where the error is, or was it just?
I don't want to blame anyone for the error, but it's they're not accurate. Let's put it that way. Councilor Murray?
So how do we approach this in terms of, do we delay this item until July 11th? Is that the intent, that what we need is?
I would assume that we get a vote of the council to delay this until July 11th.
Correct, yeah. So what we're gonna want is to motion to table this particular item, understanding that we're gonna need the directive to republish.
But we also,
Not really table, but to put it off to a July,
Postpone
to a date certain.
Right, correct.
but we need to include the date.
Yes, yes. So if somebody could make a motion to postpone to July 11th, and then the council can vote on that.
Mayor, I would make a motion that we delay this item to post and publish item 2303 to July 11th.
Thank
Second.
you. In a second? Okay. How do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I like that. Consideration action approval of resolution 23-35, co-sponsoring the July 4th parade.
I move
You're moving, we approve it?
I do.
All right. How about a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, any comments, any questions? Okay, hearing none. How do you vote, Councilor Miera?
Being that it's going to start at 10 a.m., I'll vote yes. That's what it says here, so we'll see.
We want to do it in the heat of the day, you know.
Yes, sir.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Consideration action approval resolution 23-36, NMDOT agreement amendment, C3193400. This is money. And it's taken a little longer, and we're getting an extension for at least another year. I think it's till June of 2025. June 30th of 2025.
Mayor?
Yes, Counselor.
Yeah, I did have a couple questions on this. You know, when it talked about what the monies were going to be used for, and it said in the first one, yeah, I have it underlined in my packet here. Let me get to it. Maybe I'm over your shoulder. That it's going to be used to plan, design, and construct storm and flood control structures, including in the area of West Loma Larga. Where is it going to be, and what are those structures going to
The
be like?
specific places, I'm not quite sure where the specific places are. There, is Michael still on? Oh, Michael,
Well,
can you?
we can't hear him, but I can call him.
Oh, but it's for, yeah, it's for roads, and it's a very broad description. It's going to be used,
So this was capital outlay funding from a couple of years ago that was expiring on June 30th of this year.
Right.
And it's just the projects that he was working on took a little longer because we didn't have an on-call contractor for our paving. And so it's still the same projects as before. It's just we needed a little more time.
Okay,
the contractors are delayed because they're very busy.
right. I guess I just, I know Michael's having trouble with his audio, but just to kind of review that maybe for next time.
Sure, he's planning on several places. One of them is Reclining Acres, which is going to get an inverted crown and some other work on it.
I know
But there's 3 of them
Coronado-
that are like $1.5 million, and this won't touch that.
Right, right.
So-
I've got him. Oh,
Sorry, what?
yeah, can you mute your audio on your end? Okay. Can you hear him? Oh. We're getting feedback from you. Let me do this.
Boy, technology's great.
It is.
That works.
Oh, now you hung up. Well,
Mayor, perhaps, since we're having difficulty, perhaps we can go ahead and approve this and make it an explanation at the next meeting? Sure.
And it's, this is just an extension.
Right.
I'm curious, does it have anything to do with all that sand that comes down to Loma Larga, mainly in your district?
It may very well. I don't know the specific projects. I know the monies, but I don't know each specific project and how much is going to each specific project. Okay.
Mayor?
Yes, sir. Council Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilor. So my question is, I know this is kind of a drop in the bucket, because I think there are issues all along Loma Larga that pertain to drainage, especially on, I know on the south end for Ashley, Delray, and Windover, we have flooding issues there too. So I was wondering, have we taken a comprehensive look at the entire length of Loma Larga for the drainage issues and come up with a list and an amount of money that we would need to set that right?
We have in the past, yes. We have, the village has in the past, and SCAFCA has helped in the past, and yes, those are out there. The problem is the money, yes.
I just talked to Mike about this afternoon. We were taking a look at our ICIP list that's going to be coming to you hopefully at the next meeting. And we're going to put a flood control item on the ICIP, and he's working on some funding. He said rough estimate if we did everything was about $2 million, but.
Yeah, that's not very much. I think it's more like 15.
Yeah.
But pretty much any flood control project that you do, they start at about $1 million.
Yeah, I'm worried about some of the places, that, especially coming off these steep slopes, and if whatever we do, we have to be careful that we don't overrun Loma Larga and into the MRGCD ditch, because I think some of the areas over on the west side are not capable of holding a lot of water, and that bothers me.
I think that's a true statement. The slope is excessive, and some of the developments that have occurred over the years have not, let's say, focused much on containing the drainage from each property, and those people are supposed to keep that on their property. As you recall, a few years ago, we had a huge flood on in the unnamed arroyo at Loma del Oro near the Salsi Basin that just wiped out that whole area as far as, damaging homes and.
Well, I'm kind of worried about some of the inverted crowns. I mean, I think you made progress up on Metal Arc by putting in multiple points where that drainage water could be redirected down a pipe and into someplace else. But with these inverted crowns, it seems like you're also making a sluice out of the roadway, and that, and if you get a good 500-year flood or event, it's going to overrun anything we put down at the bottom of the road, at least in my opinion.
Yes, we're going to try to focus on that with the next ICIP.
Okay.
Try to get some numbers. Yes, Councilor Mier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the best part of this one is that the legislature reauthorized this in 2003. And I mean, that's the good part. Somebody's keeping an eye on these. And I've seen so many, either on the legislative error or just the local error. They didn't reauthorize it. And when they went back to look for the money, they assumed it was not going to be there, but this one is. So I think we need to act on that one because of that particular reason.
They both are. They're both there.
Yeah.
So I need a motion to approve Resolution 23-36, NMDOT Agreement Amendment.
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Okay, we sort of had the discussion before the motion, so how do you vote, Councilor Mier?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Murray?
All right.
This next one is a similar one. Consideration, action, and approval of Resolution 23-37, NMDOT Agreement Amendment for a different set of money. I need a motion to approve in a second, please. Got a motion for and a second, Councilor Burkett. Does anybody want to ask about that one?
But just, there's a question that popped up on the first one, I forgot to ask it, but since these were approved back in 2019, and we've only got 1 year extension, are we going to be able to spend this money?
I believe so. I think Michael was talking about that today. It's just a matter of when they're getting caught up. They being the contractors who do this work.
Okay.
And so, yes, and if we don't, we ask them again, because they've been very understanding about the situation of getting contractors and getting materials in some cases to do projects.
Okay.
So how do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Mier?
Yes, sir.
So the next is a consideration action approval of Resolution 23-38, MAP agreement approval. And that is a $423,000 ballpark figure to participate in the local government road fund. It requires a match of $105,000. The agreement will terminate in 2025, and it is for planning, design, construction, reconstruction, pavement rehabilitation, construction management, drainage, and miscellaneous improvements within the control of the Village of Corrales in Sandoval County, New Mexico. In other words, a blank check for whatever we want to use it for. It's not a blank check, but it's not designated for any specific purpose other than road work. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. So I noticed on the MAP LGRF account that we carried over 104,000. Is that what we're going to use to pay our portion of it?
If it's being carried over, we're not.
So this is a new money we're going to have to come up with, 105,000?
Yes.
Okay. And so that's going to be folded into the new budget?
It should be already. Yeah, it's part of Michael's budget from, for this next fiscal year.
Well, I mean, typically the MAP money shows up in the LGRF.
I think he typically uses the matching funds from his bond that was passed a couple of years ago. And so that money is there. We just need to appropriate it basically in the budget. So
Okay.
we have it. He just needs to tell Raina to move it into the correct account.
Just think of this as cash. Then if we need it to match, we pull it out and you match with it
Okay.
to balance the budget.
I know you said that we also do specify where it goes to, but is this for new paving that we're going to do within the village, or is it existing to?
Pavement rehabilitation,
Okay.
old or new,
Do we have,
probably new, probably old
we
primarily.
have a list of streets that we will,
Oh, yes, we have a long list of streets.
and is that something you could share with council then to show where, who's?
Yes, I think we can. I think, John, you remember a few years ago, it was like 15, 16 roads. There's a lot of streets.
Okay,
You already did.
okay.
And whenever we pave one, half the people don't want it and half the people do.
Yes, I
That's
know.
right. And then when they come to the top of the list, they say, no, 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 don't do it in my street.
Chip seal, whatever it is they put on it.
I guess my other question is that it seems like the more we pave, the more we're adding to our budget that's going to be requiring maintenance down the road. I mean, are we really being prudent by paving everything that we can think we ought to pave?
Yes,
I
Melanie.
just got a text from Michael. He says this is for the length of Loma Larga doing seal coat on the entire
Chip seal.
road.
Okay.
Thank you,
Actually,
Michael.
I think he did a really cool presentation to NMDOT, like a PowerPoint and everything. So maybe we could invite him to do the PowerPoint for us sometime.
Great.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I don't think so.
Well, if we can come up with that list of streets that we have with all the, they're, in line, so to speak, to get some work on the roads, we should probably give it to the council. And also, that also has a number on it.
Got it.
You have it.
At last
We
meeting.
have it.
Okay. Yes, sir, John.
If Michael wants to avoid celebrity status, would it be possible just to circulate the PowerPoint to us?
I think
Or-
if
or
he
put it-
sends it to me, I could send it to
Put it in
you.
a place where it's easily accessible if it's
Yeah.
too big for email. Okay.
So Michael,
Okay.
if you can send it to me, I'll send it to the council.
Okay.
He worked really hard on that too, so. I think he should
Well,
share
I'd
it.
like to see it. I didn't get to see it. Okay, Counselor Mira, how do you vote?
Yes, sir.
Counselor Wallman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Alston?
I don't think we got a motion.
No.
Sorry.
Oh, that's
Move
right.
to-
Move approve.
Okay, can I get a motion for Resolution 23-38, MAP agreement approval? I sure thought we got one.
So
I
moved.
so move.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a
Second.
second? And a second? Okay, we'll start over. Counselor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Counselor Wallman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Alsobrook? Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to Resolution 23-39, approval of fees schedule. Our village clerks have put together this fee schedule, some of which weren't even charged in the past. And we're trying to get everything by resolution, so it's much easier to change as we need to change. Many of these fees were in the ordinances and may still be in some of the ordinances.
They are still in the ordinances, and the copy that you got, it shows where we got that fee, so it'll say as in ordinance 18-45 or something like that. When we actually publish to the website, I'll take all of that out, so it will be a little easier for people to read. But eventually, we would like to come back with an ordinance change, taking all of those fees out of ordinance so that we can just readopt a fee schedule on an annual basis by resolution. But for now, everything has already been set So these are fees that were already in existence. You created the new fees at the last meeting for the fire inspections. And
So-
those are the only new ones.
These fees start July 1st, or they started already? Once they're approved?
The fire inspection fees start July 1st.
Right.
The others are already in existence, so they're already being charged.
Well, how many of these have been increased?
None.
None of them?
None of them are increases. Anything that was in ordinance, we have to change by ordinance. So,
So we're trying to get them out of ordinance first, and then we can modify.
well, this isn't even taking them out of the ordinance. This is just creating a document that eventually we can pull all the language out of the ordinance.
Right, right.
But at Randy's suggestion, we're doing it this way. So we can
Okay.
at least have something to
Yes.
work off of.
So I need a motion to approve Resolution 23-39, approval of fees schedule.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. Yes, sir, Council Alsobrook.
Just out of curiosity, when the village participates in or initiates any of these processes, does the village pay a fee to itself?
Well, of course.
Is it
I
in the
like the
budget?
look of shock and surprise. I wasn't sure. I'm, you know.
It goes from my left pocket to my right pocket.
It comes out of one, you know, rain is great. It comes out of one.
Well,
into
actually,
another.
Sky will write the check, or no, not Sky. Cindy will write the check and she'll hand it to Melanie.
And then I'll turn around and give it to
And then
Bridget
we
and
put it
she'll
back in our
redeposit
bank
it.
account.
And then Bridget puts it in your right pocket.
It's nicely traceable.
Really, yes, no, basically, it's a, you know,
Yeah.
6 or a half dozen, whatever, it comes back to the village. So it's kind of useless to write a check.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Council Burkett.
So this is comprehensive of all the fees that we charge. Because I thought there were some connection fees for the water, but all I see are the monthly charges and the base charges. We don't have any,
Oh, we do. They didn't make it in there?
they're not on here.
Okay. That will be the
Fine.
first edit that we do.
Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm looking at Public Works.
Okay.
I don't know where else they would be, but I see all the
Okay.
different gallon groupings, but I don't see any sort of connection fees.
Corey, can we have them approve it with the caveat that we will add those fees in as amended?
We can actually just approve it and then we can make the amendments. That's sort of the reason that we did this via resolution, was because if we did this as an ordinance, we'd have to go through
Right.
the whole process all
Yeah,
over
publish
again.
and post.
So yeah, we can actually just approve as is, and then we can make another amendment to the resolution and then just bring it back to council to make the
Okay.
change. And then that way, in case there are any other fees that got missed, we're able to add those too. And just sort of as a heads up so that everybody is aware of the process in the event that we're doing an ordinance amendment. So for example, some of these are ordinance scheduled fees. I think most of the P and Z fees are by ordinance. And so if somebody wants to make changes to those fees, it has to go through the ordinance change process first, and then we can come back to this document and by resolution make the change. But we can't make a change here and have it be effective. So just as a heads up, that is the one sort of minor disconnect between the two processes.
Council Burkett, what was it you said you didn't see on there?
I think there's some initial connection fees when you tie into the sewer line.
Yes, there are.
And I don't see those on
Okay.
here. I just see usage fees based off of your gallons per day.
Councilor Alsobrook, you were going to ask a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. There is an item near the bottom that just says any other permit for $75. If we enact this in that interval between this and when we can amend for the hookup fee, does that mean we're having a sale on hookups, so it's $75?
Like it.
I don't.
No,
think
because
so.
technically those are still in ordinance, the
Okay.
hookup fees. So they exist even if they aren't on the fee schedule.
Okay, so this doesn't replace in whole.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because
Thank-
we aren't
thank
making
you.
any changes to
Thank
the
you.
ordinance. We're just pulling what's in ordinance out first and making a
Gotcha. Yep,
comprehensive
you did say
document.
that. Yep, thanks. Yep.
Yeah.
Good pickup, Zach.
Rare gems I produce.
Well, you know, lion squirrels, they find an acorn once in a while.
That's exactly right. The clock's right twice a day.
That's right.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilwoman.
question. This is in the nature of a devil's advocate question. Given the amount of work that the clerk's office spends on IPRA, you have 3 charges on here for IPRA. Again, devil's advocate, and this is a legal question, I'm sure, whether or not you can charge for an IPRA request. Cannot.
I can answer that with some degree of detail. I don't know how much you really want all of the detail. The real answer though
Moderate.
is that state law governs what we can and cannot charge. They were very gracious and they actually extended us the ability to charge for electronic transmissions. So one of the fees, and I've talked to the girls before about it, which is adding a fee for email transmission of documents, because it's not as though those come without a cost. And so that's a fee I think that we've discussed and haven't really settled on a fair number for, because one of the things about all of the IPRA fees is they need to be reasonable given the light of the circumstance. So mere receipt of an IPRA request is our statutory duty. However, the processing of the request and the nature of the volume of the request is going to be what allows us to charge those fees. And so we can do $1 per page, and that has been the same for a very, very long time. I look forward to legislature changing that for us someday, but I don't know when that will happen. And so many of the fees that you see are because that's what the statute requires. And then some of them are fees that we have implemented because it was reasonable at the time and probably bears looking at again.
Thank you.
How do you vote, Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Wallman?
Aye.
Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
All right, so therefore, fee schedule has been approved. Consideration action and approval of resolution 23-40 Harvest Festival. All right. Do we have somebody who's going to talk about the Harvest Festival?
Not tonight.
Okay.
Mayor,
So
if we
could I get a
approve-
motion to approve our involvement in the Harvest Festival?
I move we approve resolution 23-40 Harvest.
Thank you
Festival.
very much. Do I have a second? I have a second. I have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Anybody want to say something? Councilor Murray?
No, I was thinking about it, but I think I'll,
I saw you were thinking about it.
I'll pass.
Saw that hand flicker out there. You're going to, okay. Anybody else? All right. How do you vote, Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Very good. All right. Now we're going to move on to number 8, consideration, action, and approval of ordinance 23-04, election opt-in. Can I get a motion to bring it to the table to approve this resolution?
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a second. Okay. So we have a,
Mayor, I move.
now we're going to discussion.
I move we postpone to a date certain.
First of all, let's,
I think that's a correct point of order.
We
For a motion
only
that's on
have
the
until
table?
June 30th. So if
yeah,
you want
So it
to
would
do
have an
something.
effective decline, okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I see that.
yeah, if you delay it, we're pretty close to the deadline. And we have some people who want to talk, don't we? Did you tell me that? Okay. Who's first?
Fred Hashimoto.
Dr. Hashimoto.
And you'll have 3 minutes.
Mayor and councilors, I'm Fred Hashimoto. I live at 485 East La Entrada. Excuse me. Please do not support ordinance 2304, option number 1, which would push the next election date from March 2024 up to November of this year. Pushing elections up 4 months means that in a very short few months, anyone wishing to be a candidate needs to officially declare that. When one wonders, do I want to be a candidate? Several issues arise, including, how can I get up to speed in issues? How can I find out what it's like to be a counselor? What meetings should I go to? How will I organize people to help me? What strategies will I use? Do I really want to run? Many people are on vacation and out of town now during the early summer months, and networking can be very difficult. You all know what it needs to be done before declaring one's candidacy out in public. Having only a few short months now but before declaration of candidacy is scrambling at the 11th hour. I'm not categorically stuck on the March elections, but that has worked well for over 50 years now in Corrales, and a previous council not too many years ago voted to stay with March. People seem to like this uniqueness. Corrales having its own election facilitates a singular village focus at the time. Understandably, this extra work for clerks. Melanie did an excellent job in 2022. Now she's got a deputy clerk, Sky, to help out. Also, the village can help Melanie and Sky by hiring one extra person for less than $2,000 to do the early voting ballots. Yes, running our own elections costs some, but it's a relatively small amount. It's the cost of doing business, as one of you have said. Probably 100 or so budget line items exceed the 30,000 or so spent on every other year elections. Whatever it costs is not saving taxpayers any money. We either pay Corrales or we pay Sandoval County for the services. I followed and voted in Corrales elections for many decades and believe that adding very low interest other elections to the municipal one will not add any interest or turnout for the latter. The converse might happen. The biggest issue for the village is optimizing having good candidates for council and mayor, who are the keys to our representative government. So this timing is so important. To push forward elections 4 months at this 11th hour does not optimize the village gaining best candidates for governing body positions. Option 1 is not a reasonable option. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Next is Representative Cates.
Representative.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. I really did sign up today just to say that I do support this ordinance. I appreciate much of the feedback talking about streamlining voting and moving it to November. It will help on your expenses for the village and also your staff work hours. But I, for one, am going to be speaking in all the municipalities that are in District 44 to respectfully ask that they move this to November elections. I'm most concerned about our everyday voter, and having these different elections throughout the year are very confusing and difficult, and I think create a decreased voter input. So I am respectfully asking you to support this. That being said, as I have another 60 or 70 seconds left, I will also respectfully ask that I, as a legislator, I have gone to Larry, your lobbyist, and asked about projects, past capital outlay projects that have not been spent yet. And I was told they've all been spent. And I said, well, not according to my records. So I would just respectfully ask that you please invite me to those meetings of planning and implementing, because they are putting a lot of pressure on and making sure that we're following up to make sure that funding stays there. I want to make sure that it's there and it's available. And if you need additional funding, to be able to help that as well. So please make sure that I'm included in those conversations. And thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and councilors.
Thank you for your comments.
And that
That's it?
concludes our public comment.
Anybody on the council would like to say something? Yes, sir, Councilor Alsobrook.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors. First, and this is really not, it's just a comment because it's really not germane to our decision. This aspect of it has been made for us. I don't think the process that's been presented for this opt-in properly respects the will of the electorate. People vote knowing the term that their legislators are given by law, and this is a much more limited way of changing that without any direct input. But like I said, this is the mechanism that we have. I spoke or exchanged email with Corey and Randy, and with another attorney who I consider expert in our state laws, and they both said there's no way for this to for this to be a resolution or a ballot measure, I'm sorry, to be presented to the voters. It's just not allowed by state law, and it doesn't fit in a little crevice of what's explicitly permitted or explicitly denied. So that's why I have not brought that resolution to the agenda today.
Thank you.
Thank you. My second comment is just that I would ask that we deny this motion. One, for the reason I just stated, I don't think we've given enough respect to our electorate. We've had, it's 4 weeks from the Publish and Post, and which satisfies legal requirements. I recognize that, but it doesn't really satisfy the way our village, even though, as the administrator pointed out, we only have about 8,500 folks, but trying to talk to them and get them to understand what it is that we're going to do takes longer than that. And I think we need to take the time to do this. We could go through one more cycle of this and revisit the issue in plenty of time to opt into the 2025 November cycle. I just think we need to do a better job educating the folks. And I, in that regard, even in the, my worst case scenario is if this passes, I would ask that we not choose option 2, which extends the length of our terms. I think that is, again, doesn't respect the will of the electorate, but it makes it, I can't think of the right word.
Makes it a long
It-
time.
It's almost obscene, yeah. So
Yeah.
I would ask that we not follow that one.
How much longer is that? 18 months or
I
something?
think it's 20.
20, I think.
20 months?
Those are my comments.
That's
Thank
half
you,
your
Mayor.
term. Anyone else? Yes, sir, Council Murray.
Well, thank you. Now, I think I've made my points known that I too would move to deny this motion, and also because of the same reasons that Councilor Alsobrooks brought up, and also Mr. Hashimoto, Dr. Hashimoto, is that if we look at number 1, I'm going to be out of town, and I'm going to lose, if I decide to run, I'm going to lose a couple of weeks of campaigning. That puts me at a disadvantage, I think, in some respects. It doesn't give us, who are going to be looking at it maybe a next term, adequate time to decide or maybe make that decision whether we want to run. You know, August and September is an awful bad time to start running a campaign. I know it's, most candidates probably looking at that and planning for that, but you know, it's just, it doesn't work. I was going to opt for option 2 if we had to, because then nobody gets screwed really bad, other than we get stuck another 20 months on the council. But I think Councilor Alsobrooks is also correct in that our electorate didn't vote for us to do that. So I would say, let's move it. Let's just deny this motion, wait until a better time when we can get the people of this village better informed. And especially, I've got a couple questions about that too. How much does it cost us to do a mailing?
So I did an estimate to mail the postcards for the, and that estimate back in November was about $700.
Okay.
So for an actual letter size, it may be more expensive because the postcards are cheaper to send.
Okay, also, when I was reading through some of the information, it looks like we would, if we had a ballot measure that went on the ballot and we exceeded that second page, or we forced the ballot into a second page, we would have to pay for that cost. Is that only for the village, or is that for the entire county, or what?
So the village would only be responsible for the cost of that additional page for whatever it took it past the second page.
For our voters?
For our voters, yes. But so on these ballots, you know, when the voter goes to vote, the ballot will look the same as it would if they came here to vote in March. So they wouldn't see contests that, you know, for Rio Rancho, they wouldn't see, but they would see what would normally be on a ballot in November
Well,
of
we
odd
would
years.
also see all the ballot measures for the county, et cetera, that we would be voting on.
If it would normally appear on a November of odd year ballot, yes.
And if that in turn also included the county commissioners or anybody else within the number of towns and municipalities, that ballot would grow based on the number of.
Right, and it's really, it would only happen if we were late turning our stuff in, is what the county clerk told me. So say we wait until the day it's due, and then the information that we give pushes the ballot to be an extra page, then we would be required to pay for the extra page.
So if we were first Johnny on the spot, then we force everybody else to pay for it then.
That's right.
But
Yeah, no,
anyway,
the county clerk said it's very rare, they haven't seen it happen yet, but that's not to say that it couldn't
Yeah.
happen. So yes, that is a concern, that it could happen if we had a bunch of stuff on our ballot. But if you think about it, you know, there were some voters this last time in 2022, they had one contest, and they came in and they looked at that piece of paper, and they, you know, I had people almost tear their ballots in half because they were looking for the rest of it. And they were like, what? I came down here and I'm voting for just this one person. And I said, well, that's what you're qualified to vote
understand.
for this time around.
But you know
So
what?
I don't think anything that we would do would necessarily push it into.
well, and the other part of this
The
that I
second
really
page.
didn't appreciate was what I would consider coercion from the Secretary of State by her letter and by the email. You know, I know they're trying to do what they think is easiest for them, but I still think that the village has certain traits about it and certain, I want to say, habits that I think we ought to retain, but I think we ought to deny this motion. Thank you.
Counselor Knight.
I guess I'm on the other side of the fence with this. I don't think it's what's easiest for them. I think they're thinking about what's best for the municipalities. You know, when you look at the literature that was in our packets, there's so many pros about changing it. I don't understand all the cons. I mean, if you want to run for your next election, you know, what's the difference if you start in January and February and get voted in or out in March versus September and October and then get voted in or out in November? I guess I don't see the huge difference between that. I also think that we were elected to make decisions about things that happen in Corrales. And it would be nice if everybody had the correct information. Somebody came up to me the other day and said, Mel, am I going to have to go to Sandoval County to vote? And I'm like, no, it's going to be the same thing. So there's a lot of things going around that aren't correct. And people are nervous because they aren't getting the correct information. I think it's our duty to make sure that, you know, the mayor puts it down in the last couple mayor's notes on Friday about, you know, you're not going to have to go down to Sandoval County. We're going to have 2 weeks of early voting here, just like we usually do. As far as the safety issue that one of the people that wrote to us said, I have been early voting, a clerk and a judge. And believe me, some people come in and, you know, we had this one guy come in who had a Nazi shirt on him, who said, I want to know who's a Republican and who's a Democrat. And we're telling him it's a nonpartisan election. It's not on your ballot. And he went berserk and ripped up the ballot and was screaming and yelling. I had another person in another area up in Rio Rancho who, when you come in to vote, you can't wear the person that's on the ballot's clothes or hat or whatever, and nicely asked this gentleman to please take off his hat. And he had 2 little kids with him, and he started screaming and yelling. I mean, I think that, you know, people want to look at that our voting and our elections are safe and that they're convenient for people. And I think that's also what's going on here. I don't think it's like a big conspiracy that, oh, it's easy for the state and for the county. I think they're trying to make it so everybody's on the same page. And I really think that, you know, if we don't listen to the people who work for this village, and they're saying it's very difficult to have an election in March when people are lined up in the hallway and we can't get any of our work done because we have to make sure that the voters get to vote and it's convenient for them. So I just hope everybody, you know, read the pros and cons, because there is pros and cons, but I think we need to opt in somehow.
Councilor Burkett.
I just have a question about whether or not there's room for an option 3, because I do agree that everybody was voted in for a specific time period, but I also think this is a good idea. Otherwise, is there any way to opt into this, but extend the terms to the normal April 1st time, and then for the next election, people would fully know that they're only serving 3.5 years?
Nope, the Secretary of State gave us the 2 options. So we have to follow whatever the state election code says.
Councilor Mira.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really want to thank Mr. Hashimoto for stepping forward and speaking his piece. I think we all got a whole lot of requests from our constituents, and I liked that. I mean, this isn't just a couple of people putting in. I got a bunch of them, and they were on both sides of the aisle. So, not the aisle, but they're on both sides.
We know what you mean.
Too long, too many years. But seriously, they were on both sides of the issue, and I had to make a decision. Well, we're having to make a decision. I want to thank Councilor Knight for that. That is our job here, to make that very hard decision about the extra months and so forth and so on, and then take it to the next level, which I think is where I'm coming from. And I was taking a look on page 70, as you brought up, Councilor Knight, the safety issue, and my safety issue is a little bit different than, and why I'm liking the idea of doing it in option 1. And that is because I look at the chief in the back. Right now, our police officers are going to have to be the security if we're running our own elections. And if we decide to go ahead and give it over to the county, yes, we're paying them to do it, but the fact is that they're going to be their responsibility. And I'm very fearful, especially of the time and that's we've been having this last year. I'm very fearful of the people that are going to be coming in to vote. And I would really appreciate if we had the county taking care of that situation. We wouldn't be taking our people off the line in the for the village itself. And so for that matter, on the safety issue alone, I'm more concerned and would like to be able to think that we'll turn that over to the county and they can have whatever people they're going to have. And if, unless I'm mistaken, that's the way it's going to be. You'll be responsible for taking care of safety. As I'm looking at the chief, you'll be responsible for being there. And I don't know how many people you can put legally or at that point. So, Mr. Mayor, if I may ask that question.
Mayor, Council, in fact, would be our responsibility for a municipal run election. However, in the past, we haven't posted officers at the sites throughout voting hours unless we were aware of a specific threat or potential threat. And in that case, we do bring an officer in on overtime, because like you said, we can't really afford to pull anybody off the street. We're stretched pretty thin as it is. So yeah, I have no objection to having the sheriff's office handle that responsibility.
And one more thing.
Okay, I'm
going to ask a question first, then we'll come back.
Okay.
We don't pay Sandoval County. Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much. We don't pay Sandoval County for the election.
No, if we opt in, the village would only have to pay if, like Councilor Murray brought up, anything we put on our ballot, if it pushes it to a
But I mean,
second
as far
page.
as running the election.
Running the election,
We
the
don't
state
do
covers
anything.
it.
As taxpayers, we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what that's why you have it.
That's why I was saying where I would, Mr. Mayor, we're
Councilman
doing the tax.
There's just one other thing I forgot to mention. $40,000 to some people, to me, is a huge amount of money. I mean, you might say, oh, it's just a small percentage of our budget. But to normal everyday people to hear like, we're gonna pay an extra $40,000 to have this in March, seems, I wouldn't want to do it. I mean, if I wasn't on the council, I wouldn't want to do it.
Councilor Waldman, did you have a?
Yeah, perhaps in the nature of a compromise. It's not an option 3, since we don't have an option 3, but as Councilor Burkett indicated, I'm thinking about the idea of holding the next election in March. Those elected in 2020 would shorten their term in the following election by 3 months. And then those elected in 2022 would serve until December 31st of 27, reducing that term by 3 months. So that we'd be on that cycle. But for the next election, giving, as Dr. Hashimoto indicated, we're getting a lot of pressure and it's a short amount of time. And I think if we can compromise and start this opt-in, but to start it, not this next election, but in 2025 for the first full election for the village.
Do you want to? Okay, well, first we have to vote on the opt-in or not, and then we can modify it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir, Councilor Muir.
On that point, is that a feasible request that he has in terms of creating our own option 3?
We can't do that, but we can, in my understanding, you may have to rephrase it, but my understanding was we go ahead with March, but then we change it to the next. Well, we can't vote to change it. It would be the new council that will have to decide to change it to 2025.
So you could vote no tonight and vote it down. That would hold the election in March. And then in 2024, well, yeah, 2024, we could come back and see if we could do the same, because that's assuming that the Secretary of State keeps the same options for the 2025 election.
That was
So
my question.
that would be, because originally they said you only had until 2019 to opt in, and then they were like, oh, well, we'll go ahead and extend it again, and then, oh, we'll go ahead and extend it again. So, technically, we could, you could vote it down tonight, and then you could bring it back and try and pass it before June 30th of 2025.
After the three new counselors are
Right,
elected.
yeah.
Councilor Alsabrook.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two comments. One, I just want to correct a bit of information, and Melanie helped me here. My understanding was that ordinarily we have absentee voting, which begins 28 days prior to the election, and that takes place here.
It does take place in the office of the
That will
clerk.
not happen in this new scenario.
It would still take place, well, it would take
it
place in the county clerk,
At the
yes.
county seat.
Yes,
And so for that period of 16 days, no one is able to come here in the village and transmit their absentee ballot. They're going to have to drive over to ISA.
that's correct. Or they can still do the request by mail
Our
too.
actual voting process and the convenience to our citizens is not the same. It changes. And it takes a significant amount of it away, I think. My second comment was just that if we were to deny this, just to have a bit more time for our citizens, one thing that it would also do is let us reach out to the other municipalities of Sandoval County who have not chosen to opt in. Why are they not opting in? What are they going through? I'd just like to know the reasons why there, and that would give us an opportunity to do that as well. So that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any more comments or questions or, okay. You ready to vote? Councilor Murray?
No.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Alsabrook?
No.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
No.
Councilor Mira?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Okay, so the opt-in has passed. Now, the next question is, do you want to do A or B?
Unmute. So
Do I have a
why
motion?
aren't we hearing it?
To select option A or B?
Okay.
Can't find it.
Can I ask a question, Mayor?
Yes.
Do you have a sense on the people that have opted in, how many have gone which direction versus shortening versus extending?
So there is a list in your packet.
Yeah.
That shows
Yeah.
the municipalities that had opted in as of, I want to say it was May something. I think it's kind of split.
Yeah.
It really just sort of depends on the municipality. I know the city of Hobbs just voted in May 15th. They extended their terms. The city of Texaco voted May 9th, and they voted to shorten their terms. So it just kind of depends.
All right, Mayor, I would move that we opt for Plan 2 or B, which to extend the terms and come in on the next.
So you would move to approve option B?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion to approve option B. Municipal officers elected or appointed to a term ending in 2026 shall serve until December 31st, 2025. And the new term of the position shall be elected at the regular local election in November of 2025. And the new term shall commence on January 1, 2026.
And I'll stipulate my reasoning behind this is now, since we selected, and you've selected, or the council selected to do the opt-in, the reason I would say.
Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. Sorry, I read the wrong one.
Okay.
Let me read it. Option 2. Municipal officers elected or appointed to a term ending in 2024 shall serve until December of 2025, and the new term of the position shall be elected at the regular local election in November 2025, and the new term shall commence January 1st, 2026. That's option 2.
Yes. Now, my reasoning now behind this, since council has selected to opt in, is because it gives time for us who want to run again, plan ahead and get our affairs in order, or however we want to do this. And if we decide we're going to run again, we've got time to do that. And we can plan ahead. We don't have to schedule vacation during that time. It gives us a time also to finish up any loose ends that we might have here. But if you guys want to go with the first one, It shortens our terms up such that, I don't think you're doing anybody a favor by doing that. If we go with the lengthened terms, and Counselor Muir and Counselor Knight have pointed this out, if we have to make the hard decisions, let us finish out what we got started and let us go until 25. And then that way, nobody gets screwed, basically, in terms of their term.
I'm going to call a brief intermission. A couple of minutes, please.
Okay.
My,
Yell at me.
We on?
We are.
Okay, so to review, you made a motion for option 2.
Correct.
Do
And
that.
that will, let me read it one more time. Municipal officers elected or appointed to a term ending in 2024 shall serve until December 31st of 2025. The new term of the position shall be elected at the regular local election in November of 2025, and that new term shall commence in January 2026.
One of the guys
And
wants
then
to.
those who, in subsequent, says those who were there in 26, part B, I guess you'd say.
It does extend everybody's term, but
By a lot.
by a lot, that's true. And then, like Counselor Muir and Counselor Knight said, if we have to make the tough decisions, well, that's the tough one I'm gonna make.
Okay, well, I'll make one other comment, since you guys are kind of not debating real heavy. If we don't like it, we can get out of it.
You have to go through 2 election cycles. So you do have to have the entire
Oh.
council go
Okay,
through.
so we all have to be elected at least once,
Yes,
re-elected at least once.
yes. But yes, you do have the option of
Okay.
changing it.
Anybody else? Yes, sir, Councilor Burkett.
So in my mind, one of the reasons to lengthen instead of shorten is because we are going to be addressing paying counselors in the near future, and that would delay the ones that do vote to do this and add to their term. They're not going to be getting paid for that term, or they're not going to be getting paid at a higher rate for that term. So in my eyes, it's we're not getting ourselves to a higher paycheck sooner. If anyone does want to run for reelection, and that, I mean, may or may not factor into certain people's decision-making. For me, I think it makes sense to go longer, knowing that we're gonna go an extra 20 months without seeing any pay raises that we do.
Well, you'll get paid, you just won't get a pay raise.
Just not the new, yeah, which is fine, and
Yeah, but you're not here because of that anyway.
I just like the food, so.
3
Anyone else?
No.
years later.
Okay, do we want to vote?
yeah.
Are we ready?
So.
Councilor Miera,
No,
Councilor Woolman.
No.
Councilor Knight,
No.
Councilor Alsabrook,
No.
Councilor Burkett,
Yes.
Councilor Murray.
Yes.
Well, that's a 4-2. So since that's the extended part B or option 2, does that mean we need to go back to option 1 by default?
I think we would have to vote on option 1 then.
Okay. So do I have a motion to address option 1?
that was the original motion.
The original motion was to vote on option 2
To vote to opt
lengthen.
in. The original was to
The
vote to
original one
opt
was to
in.
opt in. Yeah.
Just want to make
The
clear on
next
that one.
vote was
Yeah.
to vote for
I'm
part
with
2.
you. I just want to make sure we,
Do I have a motion to do option 1?
so moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Do we want to keep talking about this?
Keeping us from cupcakes.
That wasn't meant to be funny, John.
Well, it wasn't exactly meant to encourage debate either, was it?
No, that's true. Okay, sometimes there's just a dead horse, you know? You
I
got
apologize.
to move on. Yes,
All
ma'am.
of our, we're not, all of our terms will be shortened. It's, it's either shortened or lengthened. And I
That's
guess we
right.
just, the people that vote for option 1, they're okay with shortening the term for 3 months. I mean, to me, it's like, I don't know, 3 months isn't that long. so-
Okay.
But to make the decision.
We ready to vote?
No, I got a comment about that.
Yes, sir.
too. Counselor Knight, you're not the one that's going to have to run within 2 months. You've got at least 3 years to plan on this, and
If
consequently,
you're gonna run, I'm sure you're gonna run.
No,
It's
the
not like you're
point,
not
the
planning
point
on
is,
running again.
I've got plans for September. And consequently, I'm gonna lose 2 weeks or maybe more, depending on other plans I may have in the works. And I won't be able to be physically in this village to campaign. It's basically putting a burden on some of us that have really short term to make a decision. whether to
Great.
go ahead with this. Now, obviously, we've opted in. The only other option we got is option one now. That's probably, it's a done deal.
Well, it has to, we have to vote.
I think it's a done deal. We've turned down option two. Option one is probably by de facto it.
We can still vote no on it, and if four of us vote no, then there is no option, and then we're in a good state.
Then we all lose.
Ooh, I hadn't thought about that one. Thank you. Wait,
Well, you have to share that discussion with everyone that's here, John.
Oh, I'm sorry, was this not on?
Well, we didn't hear you.
Oh,
Maybe I didn't hear you.
What I said was, it is a possibility to have a majority vote no on option one. And then.
So then we don't have
what
any
the
of it.
consequence of that is, I'm not exactly sure, because it just popped into my head, but, you know, anything that's put in front of us, we can vote yes or no, regardless of prior vote.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so you ready to vote? Councilor Mira?
Yes, sir.
And we're voting on option one.
We're voting on option one. Let me read it again. Municipal officers elected or appointed to a term ending in 2024 shall serve until December of 2023. The new term and position shall be elected at the regular local election in November of 2023, and a new term shall start January 1st, 2024. So this November will be the election. You'll serve until December. If you're reelected, you then will take over January 1st. Yes, sir.
Mayor, if we were to vote no on this, where are we?
Well, let's see, we're in the council chambers in Corrales, and we're in a real kind of a conundrum here.
Cross that bridge.
No, I mean, are we?
Let's vote.
No, so we voted, the vote was.
Oh, wait, we have a
The vote was
speaker
to
here.
approve option one.
So for the sake of clarity, I think it may be worth entertaining a motion to retake the vote, because I think that maybe during the vote on option two, there were confused votes, I'm not certain, but because I understand that the reading of the language at the time of the vote was a little mistaken, just because of the confusion, the way that it's written, I think it might be worth council entertaining a revote, because if you vote no on both options, you're right back in the same position of we voted to adopt the ordinance, but we do not know which option. And so for the purpose of maintaining a clear and correct record, I mean, pretend that this goes up to court someday because we had some uncertainty about who was in charge of the election. We want this to be very, very succinct.
So if there's a no vote on this, does that override the initial vote?
It does not override approving the ordinance. It means that we've got to pick one.
So either 3 months short.
We had to pick one. We have two options.
1 month.
Right,
Option two vote was voted down,
right.
4-2. Now we can vote on option one and see what it goes to. If there's some confusion on the vote and you want to retake the vote, as Corey suggested, we can do that. Okay?
But we do have a motion on the floor to vote on the shortening of
Right.
terms.
We have a motion and a second to vote on option one. Yeah.
But either way, either way,
We have to pick one.
You are
Because
voting,
we've
you are
already
voting to
rejected-
shorten your
rejected
terms right now.
We have already approved the ordinance to opt in to the local, whatever
right,
whatever it's called, Local Election Act.
right. But then we voted no.
For the
Option
first, for the option two.
Right.
We have not voted for option one. We're going to do that now. How do you vote, Mel?
Option one, yes.
Counselor Meara?
Yes, sir.
Counselor Stewart Murray?
No.
Counselor Burkett?
Yes.
Counselor Alsobrook?
No.
Counselor Woolman?
No.
That's 3-3?
3-3?
Oh, I
How
get to
does the
vote
chair
again.
vote?
You get to vote again.
So I'm going to vote for option one,
There you go.
because one of them's got to pass.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so we have passed the ordinance pursuant to MSA 1978 to opt in for the election of the municipal office of the Village of Corrales in the next regular local election. And that will be in, for the group that is up next. What is that, 2, 5, and 6 or something like that? Are you up next?
Yes.
So it's 2, 5, and 6, I believe.
And our
Zach?
judge.
So your election will be in November of 2023.
So she has to be a dedicated thing,
Okay?
voting, and then, so she can't do anything.
We have that clear and understood.
Yeah, I
We've been throwing a lot of dates out, I know that.
And I think the most, Mr. Mayor, And I think the most important is they know that, and the quicker we get this information out, those who are thinking about running, some of the issues came up, they know now that they have as many as, that many months to go ahead and start either getting their campaign together or making their decision. They still got months to do.
Melanie, when do they have to declare then? When would candidates have to declare by with this new action?
The information was in your packet. I'm sorry, I don't have it. Oh, wait.
I think it's August 29th.
There's a timeline that she, and I asked her that today. There is a timeline in the packet.
Got so many papers here.
Guys.
Okay, yeah,
I apologize for
8/27.
not having that information.
It's August
Okay.
27th.
Okay. All right, we ready to move on? Commission appointments? Consideration, action, approval of appointment of Sam Thompson to the Farmland Preservation and Agricultural Commission.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? I think Sam has had this position before. Never before? Okay.
I'm not
You know,
sure
she
if
is
she's
a
been on
master
this,
gardener, and
but-
she's very involved in agriculture in the village. How do you vote? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Therefore, she is appointed to the Farmland Preservation and Agriculture Commission. Future agenda items.
Okay.
The number one is a birthday party for Annabelle Beck.
Not so future.
Not so future.
Like in the next few minutes.
How about that? I'd second that.
But in the farther future, we'll discuss the ICIP on 6/27. There will be a presentation by the Comprehensive Plan Committee on 6/27. We'll talk about the ordinance 6/27. Dave Gatterman's going to come down from SCAFCA and talk about Arroyo awareness, and we're going to have a proclamation for that. And then start thinking about the final budget vote. It's going to be July 11th. And we'll also bring back,
Hold on, it kind of feels better to me if you.
gosh, what was it?
Zone map amendment.
Zone map amendment, yeah. I didn't write it down.
Glue.
Yes, sir, Council Mira.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like that number 7 if possible.
Makes sense?
It'd be number 8. What do you want?
Heritage people want to come in and make a brief presentation.
Okay. Heritage?
Like that.
No, it's the,
Historical Society.
Here's, okay.
And I feel even
Yeah, okay, Historical Society.
close to
Yeah,
where.
probably,
Counselor Mieta, do they have a date in mind that they wanted to come in?
I think that was going to be dependent upon us, but I think the
Okay.
13th could be a possibility because that was our next one, but
11th.
they're available.
11th.
11th, I'm sorry.
So now,
we might be able to do the 11th.
Yeah, the 11th might be better than, because we already have 2 presentations for June 27th.
Gotcha.
So just to keep everybody from falling asleep from listening to
They
presentations.
understand the brevity issue.
I get 20 minutes.
Okay, well, that's point of brevity.
That's better than 3.
one.
Yes, sir, Councilwoman.
Mayor, I'd like,
The other person,
for a future agenda item,
this,
there's been a lot of discussion in the village regarding the community kitchen. And I think there may be some other options that I'd like to hear about, either on July 11th or perhaps on the 25th
About
of July,
kitchen?
on community kitchen.
figure out.
Location, size, involving other communities in joint operation.
The way you do that is you.
Related to that, we have an invitation from John Young.
I mean,
I met him in Albertsons yesterday, and that's why the discussion.
Okay, to tour over in Los Ranchos.
Oh, yeah.
And we might do that first,
has to be out of the
just to
glue.
see, what they're doing over there.
He's thinking about perhaps a joint operation with Los Ranchos. And I'm thinking about, they have a committee there. He's on that committee. And Sarah Cobb, who's a longtime resident of Corrales, is on that committee. And have the two of them come before council and discuss some options.
Council Burkett?
Yep. I think with moving the election up, the time sensitivity of discussing what we're going to try to do bonds for, if anything, in the upcoming election is needs to get sped up significantly. So we need to have some sort of conversation about what we may be looking at for bonding on this election, if we have capacity to do any.
We don't have capacity.
Actually, I did hear from Jill Sweeney. Is that the right last name?
Yep.
Sorry, I have a couple of Jills in my head. She did say that we do have a small capacity for bonding, and we could do a bond question. And she said that the timing of our election, whether it be in November or March, would not be an issue. But it's not a very large amount.
We
that
just have to
could-
have our ducks in a row sooner.
Yeah,
if
and
it's a-
so she actually, she's putting together some dates with her team, and we're gonna try and meet in the next 2 weeks with her to get actual numbers. So we don't have actual numbers, but she did say that there
Yeah,
is some small bonding capacity available to the village.
What is our deadline to determine what bonds we would put on the issue? Is that on that timeline as well?
It would be, so we would have to submit,
You don't have much? You heard?
August 29th, we'd have to submit any ballot questions to the Secretary of State.
So this is working like that. yes.
Yeah, I mean, that is,
So we would have to adopt a
Going down.
a resolution by that,
Go
by
chunk.
the second meeting in
What's-
August.
What was the small amount that she was?
She didn't give me a number, she just said a small amount. So they haven't run the numbers yet, so she couldn't tell me exactly what we're
Well, they
looking
better
at, but,
Run them now.
well, that's what I told her, that's what I told her, so.
Yeah, we don't want to, we don't want to have the mill levy change.
Right, yeah, and that was their concern, is they didn't want to make any changes to the mill levy, so.
Okay, yes, sir.
Mayor,
Councilman.
for the future, but not too distant future, as Councilor Burkett indicated, there has been discussion about compensation for elected officials. And if we do move the election up 3 months, perhaps that's something we should talk about.
Okay, now we got,
And also, we
Okay.
had, I forgot to put this on the announcements, but we have talked about scheduling a special joint session with the Planning and Zoning Commission for July 27th.
so this works now.
one more
We
thing
got-
too, Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
We had also
Yeah.
talked about doing some sort of community appreciation event for all the volunteers in the village over the summer, and we're going to run out of summer before we know it. So if we can discuss that further as well.
Without getting the glue on the,
I'll see if maybe that's something Main Street could maybe help us with too. I'll get with Angela and see if maybe there's something we could do there.
Perfect.
Councilor Miera.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
Nolan, did you say July 27th?
July 27th, it's a Thursday.
Okay.
And it is the same week as our regular council meeting, so I do apologize for calling 2 meetings in 1 week, but it was the only time we could get P and Z here at the same time, so.
Gotcha. That's good.
I think we're
Okay.
gonna do 6 o'clock for that one, 6 o'clock special meeting, and I'll get that on the calendar and an agenda for everybody.
Okay.
Now tell me where
I
the.
believe
is
the
that
business session is over.
The green
We're
spot?
adjourned.
Now party time.
Now it's